I'm not a developer. I've never written a line of code, but the way I look at them now after working with them for 15, 20 years is they're artists. It's a creative process. It's, you've got to think that these people create stuff. It's all in their own mind. They've got to build it all up. They need time. They need space. They need a good environment to work. They need to know what they're doing and why they're doing it, really.
This podcast is brought to you by Hey Taco, the only peer-to-peer recognition platform that uses tacos to help teams around the world share gratitude. I'm Doug.
I'm Una.
This is our podcast, Amazing Teams. Hey everyone, welcome to Season 3 of the Amazing Teams podcast, where we explore all things that make work better. Today, we are excited to be joined by Stephen Lord, Scrum Master at Point 74. Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for welcoming me on. Very excited. Can't wait.
Of course.
Stephen, can you tell us a little bit more about your title of Scrum Master? What does the Scrum Master do?
Of course I can. It was originally a very developer-heavy phrase. It was used in Agile, part of the Scrum methodology. Scrum Master is basically a servant master role. You don't tell people what to do. You show them the path and take them on that journey. So it's very different from a project manager. Very similar in certain aspects, but the main difference is I don't tell anyone what to do. I'm rubbish at telling people what to do. I like showing the path. I like saying, look, this is where the company wants to go. This is where we have to go. Let's get there together. This is the way. Let's go on together. And that basically is what a Scrum Master does in a bit of a controlled environment, because in development, you've got a nice 2-week time frame if that's what you're using, and you can really get some focus in and protect the team. So it kind of ticks all the boxes for people. I know we talked about this earlier about kindness and caring, and it's so rare in the modern world to have people that you get paid to be kind, and I know we'll talk about it later, but don't confuse kindness with niceness. And that was something I wanted to just throw back at you. And there was something I read about it, and it was I think it was a kind person tells you if you've got some salad in your teeth, a nice person doesn't. And that to me is the difference between kindness and niceness.
Why does the nice person not tell someone they have salad in their teeth?
Because they're nice. They don't want to upset them. It's that cruel to be kind type thing. You've got to tell the people the truth in a nice way, not in a nice way, in a kind way. But there are certain scenarios, and I'm putting myself out here and saying I'm kind, not nice. I'm nice as well. If someone's got salad in their teeth, do I tell them, well, it's a bit awkward and I feel a bit, do I want to do that? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I just go, I'll leave it. And usually it's my wife and I don't tell her, and it's hilarious because she then says, did I have something in my teeth? No, you didn't. Sorry. So anyway, that's the Scrum Master bit is interesting because it's working with developers. And Doug, I know you're a developer and you do everything. And as we've said before, a bit legendary. So I am still a bit awestruck here. So I might witter on for a bit. So please stop me. But developers, I'm not a developer. I've never written a line of code. But the way I look at them now after working with them for 15, 20 years is they're artists. It's a creative process. It's, you've got to think that these people create stuff. It's all in their own mind. They've got to build it all up. They need time. They need space. They need a good environment to work. They need to know what they're doing and why they're doing it, really. So if you put a room of artists together and said, right, you're all going to paint and you're all going to do this and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, what would they do? They'd all just walk out, really, like herding cats. So that's the way I'm not on a mission to do this, but everyone I talk to, I always say, look at developers like artists, treat them as creative types. And that's exactly what they are. Personality wise, they might, introverted, that's the classic stereotype. Some aren't, but majority just want to get on and, be left alone and do some good stuff. So that's the way I wanted to bring to this, that we need to look at people as people in the workplace, not just, I hate the word resources. Have we got enough resources? Have we got enough capacity? It's not that. Have we got enough skill? Are they motivated enough? Do they want to get out of bed and work for us or work for the project or do whatever? So that is a long story short. So you shouldn't have asked me a question. How long? How long we got?
We got plenty of time. Doug, I'm curious, does that resonate with you as a developer and an artist?
Of course, yeah. I've had the opportunity to work with some really great Scrum Masters over the years, and the thing that I found interesting about them is their ability to just be really good at bringing people together and facilitating conversations. I see them as very motivational people that kind of they come into the room, they get people talking, they get people asking questions and being curious. So I've seen the Scrum Master role be a very important role. In my previous life. So yes, it does resonate with me.
Stephen, you and I didn't talk about this, but I'm so curious. Scrum Masters seem to be leaders, but with no really authority, right? No one is obligated to do what you tell them to. So you recently started your new role at Point 74. You come in and there's these developers and they're like, who is this guy? And why should I listen to him?
Yep.
How do you get followers to listen to you and, and do their best work when they don't have to?
No. But talking to Doug's point, if you've worked with Scrum Masters before, it tends to be when there are problems. So when a team's maybe not functioning as well as it could, maybe when there's, a lot of waste in the system, they don't really know what to do. There's lots of handovers and there's lots of friction in the system. So you tend to bring a Scrum Master in. And I know we've talked about this before, Una, but it's talking to them about their favourite subject. Their favourite subject is themselves, right? Just tell me about your day. Tell me about your work. As a team, I tend to treat a team of people as one. It's like an organism. There's all sorts of moving parts and all sorts of this and that going on. And you can then, if you start talking to them individually and then as a team, you can then start seeing how people react to each other, how they want to do. No one wakes up and wants to do a bad job, right? 99.9% of people get out of bed. They want to do a good job. I want to feel good about what I do. So if there's friction in the day, if there's things that aren't right, especially when people are doing stuff and they know it's wrong, but they're told to do it. We have to do it this way. You have to follow this process. And again, with creative types, you want to allow them that freedom to create and to do what they think is right, but obviously within guardrails. So Point 74 being a classic case of a company that's wildly successful. It's grown within the food industry massively. I've got some stats on it. We can cover that later. But they had a problem. They've just been bought by a private equity firm. They've got some investment. They need to scale. And with all these owner-led companies, it's really hard to scale because, the owners have been doing everything and they've had to, work really hard. Get a bit of investment. What do? Right, we'll just carry on doing what we're doing. We'll wind that handle a bit quicker and then a bit quicker. And then it's going to work because it worked when we were 5, 10, 15 people. Now we're 90 people. What do we do? So that's when we tend to come in and just talk to people. No, we don't talk to them. That's a lie. We listen to them. And if you listen to them and they feel that you're listening to them and you reflect back to them. So when you do that, this happens. Okay, right. And this happened. Right. And then the best thing to do, and this is brilliant, usually they're working in their own worlds, and they throw stuff over the fence and then stuff gets thrown back. And then particularly between development and quality or IT, you have all these things, right? You can't pass me a ticket until I've got this ticked, and we have to have a cross check and we have to do this and get them talking together. Well, why do you need, because it means, okay. So if I put this on the ticket or if I do this bit, right. And that, just bringing people together. And like Doug said, you get people together, you get them talking when they're not screaming at each other. If they are, hopefully they won't be. And just get them to talk and treat them like adults, Like I said, nobody wants to do a rubbish job. So treat them like adults, get them talking and listening to each other and showing them the way, really. And the other thing is, and I know I did think about this a lot since we chatted, Una, I think you've got to bring some humour. You've got to be a bit lightweight. Nothing is ever that serious. I mean, it's I don't know a good analogy to use, but nothing's ever that serious that you can't have a bit of a laugh and a joke. And what I wanted to do in this is...
I'm so excited for this.
I couldn't not wear the hat, right? I couldn't.
I love it.
And this, we'll come on to that later. But that is just fun, It's just something stupid. And as long as you don't mind making a tit of yourself, to want to use of a better word, you know, to be a bit self-deprecating, don't take yourself too seriously, and just do it for the greater good. And I know there's not enough of that, and it comes back to that generosity of spirit and kindness again. You know, if I'm talking to you and I want to make your life better, why wouldn't you try things? You know, that little experimentation type thing. Let's just try it for 2 weeks. Let's change this thing. Try it. If it doesn't work, we've not lost anything. You know, let's try something else. That's the type of spirit I like to instill in teams, and just treat them as a thing. They're just, you know, a big organism that's trying to get shit done, really.
Yeah, I totally agree on the having fun with it. When you said that, a person popped in my mind, Ben Charbonneau, who was a great Scrum Master who I used to work with, and he was great because you never knew what he was going to show up in or what he was going to do. One memory that I can't let go of is him showing up in full blown like exercise gear with like the headband, and he had everybody at our meeting doing push-ups just to kind of get the blood flowing, and you know, just it's kind of like breaking the ice and just getting people feeling good, and
Yeah,
he was really good at that. So I totally agree about adding a little bit of humor into the role. I think that's a great approach.
I'm not so sure on the push-ups, but I agree with you. Sounds a little bit too much like effort.
Yeah. Steven, I have to ask, the plant behind you, is that real or fake? It looks really healthy. In fact, it's kind of like a tree. It's not even a plant, it's a tree, right?
It is.
Is
It's
that
real.
thing real?
It is real.
What are you giving that thing?
I don't know. It started off about that big, and this is
Okay.
kind of like a garden room. So it gets really hot in the summer, and I think it must be a tropical plant. Right, this is dull. I'm going to go and get it.
Now we're staring at, this has got to be a 6. Oh, okay. That looks like a sibling.
So I cut 3 things off it, stuck it in there, and it's just grown. This bit's grown. So there must be something about this room. When I started, I was only 5'6". When I started in this room, now I'm 6'4". So I don't know what's going on.
That's the room.
Sounds like a very healthy room you've been working out of.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's nice. And this is just something else. We had this like a well-being thing in my previous company, and everyone who volunteered to do it, because you had to take time out of your day or your week, we got together and we started to do this, you know, team health type thing, you know, well-being. We got a doll of everyone made, which is personalized to them. And that's you know, it's those little things, the random acts of kindness. If you can get those in to a team, I haven't started yet in point 74. I don't really think they know what they've let themselves in for, but, you know, we'll go with that. But if you can do things like that, random acts of kindness, you know, gratitude, and it's going to come back to gratitude. And I think the best thing we ever did was put Hey Taco in Exclaimer, because I've left and a few people who put it in have left, but it's still going strong. And you know when it's a good thing, when it's in the culture. And they post regularly on LinkedIn about it. And I'm still there going, I helped put that in, you know. That's
Stephen, how did you have that insight about the importance of kindness and gratitude? Like, was it something that it was instilled to you from your parents, or did you, through your work experience, learn people could use a little bit more of that, or something third?
I don't know. I think I've always had this empathy, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I've always had a lot of empathy, and you know, I'm reasonably old now. So when I was a lot younger, the world was a different place, and empathy didn't really exist. So I always thought, why are people being so horrible to each other? You know, and you fit in and you do that. And then when I started work, I thought, well, I've got to be strong, and I've got to be, you know, you don't show emotion, and you can't help people. You've got to go. And then it was, I don't know, it must have been a light bulb moment. I think it was, I used to work in IT support, and I was originally very strict on it, and it was all, no, you can't do this. But inside I was thinking, why can't they just have a new keyboard? You know, I could just do that for them. And then ultimately, you learn that you can't do it in IT because people take the piss. Because if I give you a new keyboard, yeah, I'll give you one. Then someone looks over your shoulder and goes, why's she got a new? I want it. And it's like it all balloons out, and you know, it's all chaos. But what you find is you can be yourself in this role because it's such an open-ended facilitator role. You know, there's no real rules around it, and that's what I love. You know, don't tell my boss, but I hate being told what to do. I really do. I always have. But in this, you make your own world. You can make your teams be the shape you think they should be in. And people tend to go with it because you get results. You think if you can apply empathy and kindness to a team and to get them working, even though they don't know they're being empathetic and kind to each other, you get great results. And Doug, I'm sure you've seen it if you've worked in teams like that. If teams share a common purpose and share a common goal and know why they're doing stuff and they help each other out, you're 75% of the way there to get quality stuff out the door. It's not knowing that why. So that didn't really answer your question, did it? But maybe I'll come back and I'm wittering. But I'm wittering now.
No, you're good. One thing that made me think as you were talking about the importance of bringing the team along, sounds like what you're doing could be applied to outside of the engineering team, right? It doesn't have to be connected to development. And what you did at Exclaimer, just even with the culture and the gratitude, it was applied to the whole organization. So it sounds like the skills that you have and what you bring to a development team goes far beyond launching products.
I think, that's pretty much spot on, but you have to have a testing ground. And when I'm going to say this, and it's hilarious, when you go to a party and you talk to people, right? I don't go to many parties and I don't talk to many people, right? Let's put that out there now. But when you go to parties, they say, what do you do? And you say Scrum Master, and they finish laughing and go, that's a made up title. And then you tell them what you actually do, from a day to day. And I have not met anyone yet that hasn't gone, we should have that in that would really work in our company because we could do this, this and this. And I say, well, why don't you have it? Oh, because we didn't know we needed it. And that is a real problem for this role. But that's not your question. I can't remember what your question was. I've gone down this rabbit hole.
It wasn't even a question. It was more of a thought. Right? It sounds like you're doing at Exclaimer, you did a lot of work that probably would traditionally fall under HR, right? Or people and culture, what you and Ellie did as with gratitude and culture. So you were taking on the organizational development, not just your engineering development, which I think is kind of interesting. That it doesn't all have to live with HR. It could live with someone like you who extends their skills outside of the immediate team they're working with.
The worst thing you can do is put culture into an HR, bracket it into HR. It's not. Cultures comes from how you treat each other every day, how each interaction from everybody, that's the culture. It's not because someone puts some words on the wall and you all go, yes, we're great at teamwork. But that was my original point, was that it's a really good proving ground because engineers have got the Scrum Master title, and you can go in and do that facilitation piece. So when you're going to get it working, everyone then goes, hang on a minute, I want a piece of that. You go, let's have a chat, and that's how it builds out. So you've got to start small. You've got to, and that's exactly how we started it in Exclaimer. I remember one day I was reading the Management 3.0 stuff and they said you should have a gratitude box. And the engineers at the time were not angry, well, they were a bit angry and a bit aggressive, and that's fine. And they won't mind me saying it because, I did hundreds of retros with them and they all calmed down and just generally hated me. But apart from that, I thought, let's give it a go. So I went up to the most difficult developer I knew, most awkward and the one that would say no. And I said, I'm thinking of doing this for the development team. There was only about 15 of us at the time. And he said, yeah, all right then. I was like, okay, we might have something here. So this was pre-COVID. We had a box in the middle of the office, little cards to write on. We'd put them in the box. And then at the end, every Friday, we'd get them out, share them out, and you'd read them out. So we did this and they got it. They got it pretty much straight away. And I was thinking, this is some sort of weird source. What's going on here? And then we built on it. And what we ended up doing was, if I'd written something, thank you so much for fixing my pipeline, great, you would then get to keep it. So some people said, no, I don't want it. But some people were happy not having it. Others collected theirs. So the ones that people didn't collect, we put all over the walls. So we had them literally, I think I counted about 800 all over the walls, all up the stairs. And every time you walk past, you'd just see a new one. It's something different. And it was like, okay, that's cool. But the people that collected it, I talked to one of them, and it was this particularly awkward person again. One day he said, when I'm having a bad day, I open my drawer and I just look through them. And I thought, this is great. We've got something here. The rest of the business weren't that interested. So then when COVID hit, obviously the box is in the office and we're all at home. And I'm thinking, I haven't got arms that long enough, and I'm not going back into the office and doing all that. So I looked around. I'd looked at Hey Taco before for another company, but it hadn't worked out. So I thought, let's do this. So I talked to another guy and said, should we try this? Okay. And then, my God, it just went mad. It went absolutely mad because we carried on doing it in engineering. But the difference was you don't just put it in the box. You see it there and then bang, you've got it. Oh, interesting. Build out in engineering. And within a week, the rest of the company was like, we want some of that. That's when it all went. It just went mad. And then after that, once you've softened them all up, you can go and do anything with them. They're in your hands.
Yeah, it becomes a much more powerful thing, almost like a movement, when it begins and starts on the ground level rather than top down implemented, and then people are told to use it. It's just a totally different tool at that point. So this is a very common story where it starts within a small team, usually a tech team, and then it rolls up from there. I'm curious, since we're talking about it, what was the optics from leadership about it in the beginning? They probably had no interest in something like this, right? Because it wasn't implemented from the top down. Does that sound about right?
Yes. They just let us get on with it because we had built this culture, and it was like, right, we were trying things all the time, not necessarily on this scale, but just different things. And it was kind of like that. It started going. And then my boss encouraged that type of thing anyway. He gave me a free rein. And that's one of the people I'm going to say about gratitude, because it's that whole environment. If I have loads of ideas, some of them are a bit stupid. And that's another gratitude I'm going to say about Ellie. But anyway, we'll come back to that. But when you meet people that, the type of manager I need is someone that says, okay, give it a go. I'll take responsibility for it, me. And they'll say, just give it a go. And I'll go and do it. That's the whole thing. So the leadership outside of it weren't that interested. They couldn't really care, though. But within engineering, we knew it was all right. And then once it started rolling out, it's amazing how many people then started taking credit for it. And, this is great. And then we did a load of stuff because what we did was take the values, which were written by the upper management, but we then put those into tacos and had weekly things where whoever gave the most tacos because of this, you would get an Amazon voucher or something like that. And we built it all the way up. And talking about dressing up, I have dressed up as Marge, Mario, in a suit. So I've done all that. But yes, and that's the fun. And it's okay to be a bit maverick, I think. And I think to do this type of stuff, you have to be a bit maverick and to lead and take things on that might fail. And you look like an idiot. And it's like, okay, it didn't work. The number of times I've done that where it hasn't worked out, I can't count.
If you don't try and fail, it's really hard to find something that does work, right? Because then you'll wait for the perfect thing and you'll never find a perfect thing. Because even with Hey Taco, someone might look at it and be like, that sounds so ridiculous. I'm going to look like a bozo if I start sending tacos to my team, right? There's a lot. We don't want to look like idiots in the workplace. But sometimes you got to put that hat on and just give a taco and see what happens.
The plant's in the way of the hat now, so I can't get to the hat.
That's so funny.
Stephen, a question for you. When you and I spoke, you said being selfless is underrated and it's important to put your team in front of you oftentimes. What do you think helps people become more selfless? Because obviously we're all human and we want to think about what's in it for us. And how can we all build that, being more selfless?
I think you have to have a safe environment in which to work. I think in order to do the greater good, you've got to see that no one's taking the piss, no one's taking advantage of you, because that's the worst thing that can happen. Especially if you're selfless, selfish people will just take. They won't give back. So you've got to make sure you're in an environment where that's not tolerated, but it's not tolerated by the whole team. It's that expectation setting. I don't set expectations of the team. I don't set rules, but you're there to help each other and to have their back. And I think going into a team, if you can show people, I'll do that, I'll take that off you. And it's a thing I always say to devs every time I go in is I'll try and take away as much as I can from you that's not coding, because you're paid to code, right? They're your skills. That's what you love doing. All this admin, all this political nonsense, all you want to do is know what's next, what can I code on, how many customers are using it, How is my stuff getting out in the world and changing things? That's what I try and do. In so much in Exclaimer, I took on doing facilities because it meant if I did that, it meant the IT team could then work on DevOps, which meant we could get the stuff out quicker, which means we could build the pipelines. Instead of, we had a classic situation where they would look after the Azure infrastructure, with all this mail flow going through it, but they were always responsible for the office. So we had one time when there was potentially an Azure problem and one of the toilets was blocked as well. So someone came up to them whilst they're fixing this problem and going, their toilet's blocked. And I was like, this can't go on. We can't do this. So part of it is taking it off them, and then they can say, oh, okay, well, if he's prepared to do that, I'll really dig into what I'm good at and do that. And it's always playing people to their strengths as well. Comes back to that kindness thing. Play them to the strengths. Weaknesses, don't worry about. We'll get somebody in to make up for those weaknesses. If you're no good at admin, why are you doing admin? Why are you estimating? Why are you logging your time? That's mad. Just get on. It's all about outputs. Look at the outputs. Make sure you're delivering value to the customer. Can't go wrong.
I love that you're also willing to go first. Sometimes people will say, well, I'll do that when the other person does something, right? So we kind of wait on the sidelines, and no one wants to go first, right? But sometimes you have to, go fix the toilet, go do the thing, and then people will realize, oh, okay, this person's serious.
100%. And there's a great TED talk, and I'm going to get the name wrong, and if you've got American listeners, they're going to roast me. Sassanat Festival, something like that. If you have a look it up, TED talk on, and it's basically one guy starts dancing, in the middle of this festival, leaves him alone. That is the thing, because you need 3 people, right? So a lot of the time, you just make sure you've got a couple of people that I'm going to go, but I know you've got one. Right, you're going to come with me? Fantastic. And then pretty much then everyone goes. But yeah, you have to be prepared to put yourself out there. And it's not easy. It's never easy. And it's horrible. But you've got to do it, right? Because you want to improve and you want people to improve. And that's the key. I think that's the key to life. Just try and get people to do the best they can,
Agreed.
It's not rocket science, is it?
We somehow make it rocket science.
Right. So for season 3 of the Amazing Teams podcast, we are focused on making work better. Let's do something for our listeners. And between us 3, let's create a list of 10 actionable things that people can do right now, today, to make work better. And I'll start by saying adding Hey Taco to their life. We all know that is obviously
it
number
definitely
one,
makes
right?
work better. I mean, obviously.
Una.
Okay, I'm gonna follow with connected is just say thank you more often.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right? To your person in the front desk at a doctor's office, to the cashier, just look them in the eye, just say thank you wherever you go.
That's a good one. It's so impactful. Just simply saying thank you. Agreed. Stephen.
First of all, I didn't know there was going to be a test, so
I apologize.
Doug comes in.
First thing that comes to mind.
That's a huge. And are you counting these, by the way? Could we get to 8 and then it's all right?
That's fine.
One of the ones I've just written down: celebrate the wins.
Celebrate. Yep.
They come so very little. They happen very rarely. Big wins. Celebrate the little wins every day. Look for those things. Just look for the little things, and it follows up with the say thank you. Say well done. So there's 2. Oh, I've given you 2 there. So we're on 4. Say well done to people. It doesn't cost anything.
Yep, that's a good one. Celebrating, kind of in the same theme as both of y'all. Something very simple that I think a lot of people overlook, and that is just simply smiling at people. It's an invitation, right, for conversation. The co-working place that Una and I work at, there's a lot of people that smile, but there's also a few that don't smile, and those people you just don't want to. You're not gonna go up and talk to them if they're not smiling. So just simply smiling at people is a quick way to engage and to just put some positive energy into the room. So that's my second one.
My second one is ask more questions.
Ooh.
I think curiosity is so underrated. So instead of just talking and saying what you think, ask a clarifying question of a colleague, or just ask them, hey, why do you think this is the right idea? Or what made you say that? Just ask one more extra question in a conversation a day, and you're going to learn so much.
That's a really good one. And I truly believe that makes work better. And Una, you've kind of inspired me about curiosity and being more curious, not only in our work, in our customers, but in the people that we work with. And so I think that's a really good one.
Steven, you're next.
Well, I'm next. This is fun. This is hard. This is good. Listen, I think I'd say listening, active listening. When you're talking to someone, get all the distractions out of the way, because on this you can see. And half the time you're in a meeting and someone's doing this, you're not really listening. But when you're this, you two are my sole focus. You're the most important things in the world to me today, at this moment, and you'll get my full attention. And if you can do that with people, then why wouldn't you? How does it make you feel? Wow, got all their attention. Fantastic, So listen, active listen.
Love that one. Should we keep on going, or
let's do one more round, because I just have one, so that's fine.
Una, you started off. You start off round 3.
Okay, my third one is say what you're gonna do and then just do it. And if you need to change, then say that and adjust. Managing expectations is so easy. And to kind of slide and whatever. Just like if you're gonna be at work at 9, say you're gonna just be there. If you're gonna finish a project, just finish it. And if you can't, say, hey, something came up. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Right? But it builds so much trust with your colleagues when you just say, I'm going to do this, and then you actually do it.
I love that one.
100%.
That's a good one. My, unless you wanted to go next, but I've got one on the tip of my tongue here, Steven, and that is simply just delighting your colleagues. This is something that many businesses, they focus on delighting their customers, but that starts internally, right? The teams and companies where they focus on delight, and maybe delight is a core value. When it's happening internally, that's usually when it radiates to the customer, and it's a full kind of effect, full spectrum. And so, for me, my third item here that people can do today is to just simply try to delight your colleagues.
I like that one. Like, bring donuts into the office.
Exactly.
Right? Like it doesn't have to be something crazy.
Right? It really doesn't.
Think of other people and try and make their day.
And that's a great one. It's sometimes delight involves a little surprise. And so, surprising people with donuts is a great one.
Keep them guessing.
Keep them guessing.
The one I've got is be authentic. And I think that's why I like working with developers, because they'll call you on bullshit straight away. If they smell it, it's like sharks in the water. The minute you're dishonest or disingenuous, wallop, you'll be back down to earth. So you can never, hit the heights, because they'll always keep you grounded. And they'll call you on it. And I love that. I think that's great. Just be authentic, and you've got no problem.
Agreed. And that was great. We can keep on going, but I think we should probably move on. I don't want to make Steven work anymore.
Work up a sweat over a test.
He grabbed the pen. He's been taking notes.
I've made all these notes in case you ask me.
Well, you have all these notes, Steven. Is there anything on your notes that we haven't covered that you just want to share with people listening?
The only one I did write down that we haven't done, and I'm not great with this, so don't take me as some sort of saint. I'm not. It's check in with people. It comes back to that. I think we're all around the same thing. Just ask people how they are. You can have the usual stuff, but really ask them. And a great inspiration for mine was a guy I used to work. I'm going to call him out as well later on. He said, always ask someone twice how they are. How are you doing? Great. No, how are you doing? And usually on that one, people go, and they'll tell you. And it goes back to being authentic, really wanting to know about people and really caring for them, showing you care for them. And that's a great way of doing it.
Yeah, I think that's worthy of emphasizing. Ask people twice how they're doing, right? That's such an actionable, great idea.
Yeah, the first time it sounds like a greeting. Yeah. Right? That's how people greet each other.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, fine. Like, you just have an automatic response too. I'm good.
No, how are you really doing?
Yes. Yeah. And if you do it to someone, or someone does it to you, it's really horrible, because the second time you go, oh, they're actually, oh, how am I? Well, yeah, all right, but it's a bit rubbish. And you go, oh my God, that works.
Okay, can I add a nuance to that thing, that, Steven? I think the way you ask how you're doing is also important, because if you ask it with, how are you really doing?
Yeah.
Then the person listens like, I guess I'm good. Maybe I shouldn't be good, right? And if you say, but how are you really doing, right? Then it's like, okay, I can't say that I'm feeling
Yeah.
shitty today.
Yeah.
So it has to be neutral. Otherwise, with the way we ask, we can lead the person to be like, maybe I should be more upset than I am, but I'm really not that upset, right? But in our voice, we can tell people what we feel like they should be feeling.
Yeah. Now you've got me thinking about if I've said that before and, made somebody say something they didn't mean. Oh my God.
Well, cool. Let's talk about gratitude. As you know, Stephen, our podcast here is a Hey Taco podcast, and with Hey Taco, everyone has 5 tacos to give each day to recognize their colleagues for something they've done, or to simply just show some appreciation, put a smile on someone's face. Stephen, who are you giving your 5 tacos to today, and why?
Do you know, this was a hard one. This was a hard one because I've got a great wife and 3 great kids, and that's 4 used up straight away. So I thought, no, that's cheating. That's cheating. So can I put family as one?
Absolutely.
They're your tacos, Stephen.
Yeah, they'll always ground you. However far you get in life, they'll always keep you grounded and go, Dad, stop being a knob, or something, whatever they'll do. I've mentioned Ellie Campbell. Ellie, Ellie. She is fantastic. We were doing all this culture stuff. She came in, she's a bit like a whirlwind. She's an absolute whirlwind. She's brilliant. And you get her in a room and you start talking about ideas. Oh my God, you have to go, no, right, calm down. And on the back of that, there's also Jim Turner. And we all work together at Exclaimer. And I always said, right, you two need to not get in a room together without me, because otherwise they'll be like burning the place down or seeing how they can arm wrestle bears or do something. Like it was such a good time, because nothing was off the thing. And we did so stupid, we dressed up as Father Christmas, and we did all sorts of stuff around gratitude, around the Hey Tacos, around the Christmas type thing. So yeah, those 2 people, inspirational. My old boss, who gave me that, who was basically the container to allow me to do all this stuff, to put me on the Scrum Master path and kind of build out what we built out in Exclaim, was Dan Richardson. And he's great, because he just, I used to say to him, should we do this? Have you done it before? I hadn't done it before. I said, yes. He said, did it work? I went, yeah. And I hadn't. He allowed me that level of, I don't know how he did it. It was mad. And our Costco runs were legendary. We'd always get loads of cakes from Costco, so I would always stack them up. He would then come along and go, you haven't got enough. We'd double it, and we'd go in there and everyone would go, there's too many. Say, don't complain about too many cakes. It's brilliant. It was such a good time. It was such a good time. And then the last one was someone I used to work with years ago. Sadly, he's passed now, but his name was Lloyd Carby. And he was an inspiration because he set the bar. And whenever you did work, you knew you had to get to that bar or exceed it. If you wouldn't even go there with nothing, if you got over the bar, you'd get yeah, that's all right. And if you got fantastic, I've got there, fantastic. If you didn't, he wouldn't want to know you. So, he taught me loads, and it's always do your best. Always do your best every day. Just keep that bar high, because it's all about when no one's looking. How high is your bar when no one's looking? And, people get away with stuff. I can't do that. My bar has to be high, because otherwise I've got Lloyd in my ear going, and I can't do it. So they're my 5. I know, it's a bit of a walk through my world, but yeah, it's good people. And there are tons of other people I've worked with who probably all should get a taco, but you can only have 5, which is
just for the day though. They reset tomorrow. Remember, you got 5 more. I have to tell you guys, this is we talk about a lot of interesting stuff on the podcast, but the 5 tacos is always my favorite part. It's like I get chills when people talk about, tacos. Lloyd, right? He's no longer with us, and you still think of him every single day. Wow, that's amazing.
And it's that thing, and the way to make you even more chill, even more, you will have influenced people like that, and you still can. And that's the frightening thing. When people come up to you and said, do you remember you said this 5 years ago? And I go, don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. I just make it up on the spot. And they go, no, you said that. We did it. And that's the thing to take. And this is to your listeners as well. Every day you can be affecting somebody's life in a really positive way if you choose to. And it's all a choice. It's all that quality.
I love that a lot. Well, Stephen, Thank you for coming on the podcast, sharing your stories and your wisdom. We really appreciate you.
You know what? It's been great, and I could witter on for hours and hours, but I love what you guys are doing. You know that, and I wish you all the success in the world, and you're going to get it because it's a great product and great people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks for listening. One of the important things about building a team is gratitude. If you're looking to add more gratitude into your team, check out heytaco.com. We are clearly biased, but it really does work. Use the code AMAZINGTEAMS to receive 15% off for the first 3 months of your subscription.